This is Brandon I. Brooks, the managing editor with the Los Angeles Sentinel and the LA Watts Times newspaper. It is my absolute pleasure today to be sitting here with the District Attorney of Los Angeles, Mrs. Jackie Lacey. How are you doing today, Miss Lacey?
I'm doing well, Brandon. Thank you for asking.
I really appreciate your time and you opening your office and your time for us, because we understand, you know, it's a lot going on every day in this position, but thank you again for sitting down with us.
Sure, you're welcome.
I think it's fitting for this interview, being that we're embarking on Black History Month, and I'm very proud to see someone of your stature in a position like this. Many people don't know you are the first woman to hold this position, and not only the first woman, but the first African American to hold this position, I think since 1859 or 1860?
It's 1860.
1860, okay,
yeah.
We'll round up. But tell me, you know, it's one thing of that, but if you can bring clarity to the Los Angeles audience on what the job of the district attorney is exactly. They hear it as a title, but you know, let us know from your mouth, what does this job entail?
You know, the district attorney's office basically is responsible for prosecuting. It's a constitutionally created office, and it's responsible for prosecuting cases for violations of law against state law. And the LA County District Attorney's Office is the largest in the nation. There is no larger office.
Wow.
We have 1,000 lawyers, almost 300 sworn investigators who work just for us, and the rest support staff. And on top of that, we're probably in one of the most populated counties. There are over 10 million people that live here. And so to give you a little perspective, there are people who live in counties where there are more cows than people. They don't even approach you know, the numbers that we have. We have a lot of challenges here crime-wise. For instance, people know that we deal with human trafficking, things you may not know, that there's a lot of human trafficking that goes on here, a lot of cyber crime, a lot of fraud, but also we have more than our share of homicides, rapes, child molestations, home burglaries, auto burglaries. We probably lead the nation in some of those statistics. So it is the busiest office in the nation, and the most innovative. A lot of people look to us to kind of set the trend for the nation.
Let's even stick with that. You said setting the trend. What are some of the things that you've done that you can note, maybe in the last few years, that have really turned this office around, that have kind of shaken things up for the most part?
Well, you know, the office, it was easy because I, so to speak, grew up here. I came here to the office 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago, last March. And I did everything from low-level drug cases to homicide cases. And so I felt like I really knew the business of what we do and knew the mission. So coming here to lead this office in 2012 when I was elected was, I felt I was ready mentally. I was ready knowledge-wise, and so from the minute you come in, although I was the first woman and the first African-American, I want to be the best. So I started to set my goals up of what I wanted to change here. Pretty much, the lawyers themselves do the work. You want to create, as a boss, a good environment that inspires, that frees people, but then gives them guidance. So that's, the in-house agenda that I have, which is to inspire, create great morale and challenge people to be good leaders. But in terms of serving the community, I wanted to, there were a lot of criminal justice reform efforts that were happening. I wanted to make sure we still remain safe, notwithstanding those reform efforts. I wanted to do something about alternative sentencing. And it turns out mental health turned out to be a big issue here. We were incarcerating way too many people because they were mentally ill, and I felt we needed to change that. It's no secret that I wanted to address fraudulent schemes that are perpetrated on our elderly. I wanted to warn them about them so they didn't fall prey. And I wanted to protect our environment. I wanted environmental justice to occur. I think that, no matter where you live, you ought to be entitled to clean water and clean air and free from any pollutants and anything of that sort. So I wanted to address the environment. But those are my main goals. As I head into my second term, though, I want to shift a bit, still focusing on mental health and fraud, and I forgot to mention cybercrime. I want to continue to deal with that. Most of us have been the victim of our information being compromised. But I really want to focus in on children this time. The abuse of children. There's still too many stories. You know, the most child homicides occur with children who are 5 years and less.
Really?
Did you know that?
I did not know that. That is
Most child
very
homicides.
unfortunate statistic.
And so we got to do something for those little ones, right?
Yeah,
We got to
definitely.
figure out how to protect them better. But the other thing is, you know, in the national discussion about prosecutors and police, there's a perception in communities of color that the prosecutor's office isn't working in their favor, you know, as much as for other communities. And there's a discussion about unconscious bias. And so I want to be the first office in the nation to require all of my lawyers, everybody who works here, to go through unconscious bias training to eliminate that bias, so that I make sure that our policies are fair, they're not slanted against people because of their economic status or their physical characteristics. I also want to make sure when my prosecutors are prosecuting a case that defendants are getting a fair trial, a fair shake, that we're not putting anybody away for the wrong reasons. It's always got to be about the evidence. And that we treat victims from all communities with respect. So those are things that I'm working on that I think overall will benefit the community.